Okay, so what is in people, and welcome back to your favorite YouTube channel. So today, guys, like always, another weekly analysis for you. On the screen are the pairs that we'll be analyzing today, but make sure you do stay to the end of the video as there is a bonus pair in store. I didn't take any trades this week. It was a very boring week, and we did see a bit of momentum. I was focused on the USD pairs. We did see a lot of momentum, which we'll take a look at in a second, but it was just continuous. There wasn't a lot of pullbacks. And yeah, I looked to enter my trades mostly on the 4-hour chart, sometimes the hourly, but the market just didn't pull back into my levels. And then, of course, towards the end of the week, market got a little bit dry, and of course, we had a bank holiday on Friday as well. So, staying out the market. We'll see. Hopefully, if next week will provide some nice opportunities. There's quite a few more pairs on my watch list going into next week than we had this week. So hopefully we can get some nice positions, but yeah, nothing too much to talk about this week in terms of my trades, but we'll recap the analysis and then go, of course, and forecast what we expect to happen next week. But we'll start with the DXY, and then we'll head over to the pairs we'll analyze. Of course, use the timestamps below if you do want to jump to a specific pair, which I'll analyze, which of course is located below. But with the dollar this week, a little bit bearish, you can see, at least compared to last week's candle and the week before that, very, very small candle. So again, not too much movement this week. If you look at a lot of the weekly candles this week, for a lot of the major pairs, USD pairs, JPY pairs, well, some JPY pairs, not a lot of movement this week. So it was a little bit stale, especially USD. I think it might be having a bit of a breather from last week, but slightly bearish. Again, overall as a whole, USD is bearish. I am bearish bias on it. I'm looking to short the dollar some more. However, not at these current prices. We are taking out some major lows to our left here. The market's still pretty stretched, so I do want to see a bit of a pullback first before I do look to find some entries. As I suggested last week, this is the zone I'm looking at, 101.5. If we can see a pullback into that area, I'll be more than happy to start looking for some entries and see if we can take it back to where we came from, back into the low. If I can see a nice corrective pullback into that zone, I'll drop to the 4-hour, possibly hour chart for some entries to take it back into support. Then potentially we can go further. I'm not looking to try and swing USD too much to the downside because we've already seen such a big drop. The market's not going to keep melting forever. We're going to see a meaningful up move at some point. But at the moment, momentum is still with the bears. We're still seeing bearish structure. So as a result, I'm still going to be looking to sell the market, but I do need to see a pullback since we're at these prices, taking out some major lows. And that's the same case with Euro USD. We've seen a really big move to the upside. We're taking out some major highs on the daily, weekly chart, and I'm looking for some pullbacks now. I have highlighted this zone just below us on the daily chart, which is around 1.11. If I can see a correction into that zone, I'll be more than happy to take a buy. Drop to the 4-hour chart. You can see pretty much all week, just a lot of sideways momentum. Nothing to do really with the market unless you're trying to pick the tops and bottoms on an intraday level. Then there might be some opportunities, but from a trend following standpoint, the market didn't really go anywhere this week, so not a lot of opportunity there for Euro. But we do have this zone below us, which again, if price can pull back into, I'll be more than happy to take some buys to again follow that momentum and hopefully see if we can take it back into resistance, back into the swing high with Euro. But again, Euro's had such a big move as well. I'm not trying to be too optimistic with these swing trades. If I can get it back into resistance, I'm looking to take my profit straight away. I might leave some positions to run, but because the market's already quite overextended, we've seen a big move already. Typically in FX, when we see a big move, we're not expecting another big move, most likely not anyway. The market's going to have a bit of a correction, and then potentially another big move can start, but we do need to have that healthy correction, which we just really haven't had yet with Euro. So just looking for a bit of a pullback back into 1.11, hopefully some longs back into resistance, and now with the plan for next week for Euro USD. Okay, so over to USD JPY. So another bearish week this week. Again, nothing too crazy. You can see this the weekly candle, just slightly bearish. I'm expecting price to go and hit 140. That's the next big level for price. We smashed through 150 not long ago, so the next big psychological level would be 140, and of course it lines up very well with this support level. So I'm expecting price just to slowly roll over. It would be nice if we could see an up move first, the pullback, allow us to capitalize on some nice swing opportunities for some shorts to take it back into 140, and perhaps some longs from that area. We've seen two massive rejections from that area. I do think we can at least get some type of bounce. I'm not saying that price is going to fly to the moon, but we might see a bounce there for maybe 2 or 3 days. That could still be a meaningful trade on the lower time frames, but it would be nice to see a pullback into this zone. This is the same area I talked about last week, back into 145. If we could pull back there, that would be nice. Drop to the 4-hour chart, you can see we're really lacking a lot of momentum. So by my judge of things, we might kind of just slowly just roll over into support here. But for some reason, if we do see a bullish dollar yen at the start of next week, then hopefully we can smash into 145, see some healthy rejection, find some shorts to swing it back into 140. And then if we get there, we can start to analyze the price action. If things look good for a bounce, there could be some nice longs there for a couple of days to take it back into resistance. So I do like the sells and the buys here for dollar yen. I like because we are moving very, very slow, not falling very dramatically. Because we're slow, it does tell me there's a good chance we do bounce from that support level. So I like the buys as well. And if we can pull back before the buying opportunity, that would be great, because then we can sell it towards 140 in the expectation that price is going to get there to test that support level. So yeah, shorts look good here for dollar yen and buys. I'm not too sure if we'll get the shorts from this zone. Like I said, I think we might just roll over very kind of tiredly. So it might just be the buy opportunities we'll take a look at next week. But of course, stay on your toes. You don't know what's going to happen next. If things are good, there could be some nice buys, perhaps back into 145. But I'll probably judge targets closer to when the trade is actually forming. But that'll be the plan next week for dollar yen. Okay, so over to dollar CAD. So dollar CAD, a little bit bearish this week. You can see we had a bit of a wick to the upside, but we just about closed bearish there. I've been talking about this support level to our left, seeing what price does at this area. It seems like it's breaking through and holding below, so I'm not really looking too much at this level anymore as support. I'm still pretty bearish with dollar CAD. I'm bearish on USD, so that's the direction really. That's the direction I want to trade in regarding USD pairs. I don't think I'm looking. Yeah, pretty much every USD pair I'm looking to sell the dollar against the other currency. So for dollar CAD, I'm expecting more downside as well. There's a lot of momentum. You can see on the weekly chart, very strong candle a couple of weeks back. So I'm still expecting that momentum to be alive and well. Again, ideally, a pullback into this zone would be nice. This is the area I was talking about this week, back into 1.405. I also said if we have a slightly bigger pullback, I would also consider the low here as well. But it looks less than likely that we'll see that bigger pullback. Even this level is looking less likely as we do continue lower. But I do like this area here at 1.405. That's really the level I want to short from. I can see the market's looking a little bit more tired now, so that does lead me to believe a pullback is on the way. I think we'll probably have a pullback for most of the USD pairs in the next coming days. Yeah, I need price to be back at resistance, healthy areas to short from. Again, I like to hold my trades for at least a couple days, potentially more than that as well. So I need to be positioned where I can do that, and I'm not going to be shorting at lows here, because if that's the case, I need to be in and out the trade, because there's a good chance price is going to find support soon and push back against me. So it doesn't make too much sense shorting there if I'm going to look to try and swing a trade. So by default, waiting for price to pull back, find some more resistance, this would be a lovely area to short from. So again, that's literally where I will be focused at. And if we can get there, see price slow down, become corrective, wicks, bearish engulfing candles, that's what I'll be looking for entries and targets back to where we came from, back into the lows. So that's still very much the plan for dollar CAD. There could be some buys beforehand to take advantage of the retracement. I'm not so interested in that, which is why I'm not going to speak too much about that. But by the looks of things, momentum is dying down, and I do think DXY needs retracement, and I do think dollar CAD is is showing some signs that retracement is around the corner. So there could be some nice buys to keep an eye out for, but as I said, I'm focusing on the short. So that will be the plan next week for dollar CAD. Okay, so next up we've got euro pound. So I am pretty bearish on this one. I do think price is hitting some tops where we can retrace. There's a pretty big level of support just underneath us, so I'm being cautious of that level. As we can see, really strong support, taking that level across. We did wick into that level this week, and it has given us a bit of a bounce, which you can see a bit better if I drop to the 4-hour chart. As you can see, a nice reaction there, but it does look like things are beginning to top out. The market's been extremely bullish, so I do think naturally the market is due a retracement. You can see we had a very strong move over here. Price then created a new high. Then we had another big strong move coming back into the same level. So it's like the market is trying to continue but failing to do so. I do like the shorts over here. Nice brief pause in the market, and that's where all the momentum came from. And we do, of course, have prior resistance on the left here, which potentially could act as resistance again. If we can tap into that, I think that'll be a nice confluence for the trade. And it pretty much forms a nice head and shoulder pattern. There's your left, there's your head, and there's your right shoulder. So looking for a push back into resistance, a lower high, then a push into support. And of course, that would technically be your neckline for the pattern. But of course, it lines up with that higher time frame level of support we just mentioned. So I think that makes for a great target. Price may break through that, it may not. I think if you are shorting towards that area, just looking to book profit makes the most sense to me. You can always leave positions to run if you do expect the market to have a bigger retracement, which I kind of do, but let's not mess around at that support level when it's of course already bounced twice as well. So yeah, euro pound pretty bearish on. Again, it would be nice to see price push back into this level. That's where the confluence lies. There's a chance we do roll over from here, but not really interested in finding shorts in that area. This is where the confluence lies, so that's where I want to find my entry. So waiting for the price to come to us rather than forcing something. But yeah, if you can get back to 0.865, that'd be great. Again, important, waiting for rejection, waiting for confirmations. Then shorts back into 0.852 will be the plan next week for euro pound. Okay, so up next we've got Aussie dollar. So Aussie dollar, I'm pretty bullish with this one. We've seen a lot of upside in the past couple of weeks. The 3 weeks ago we had a really big sell, but the past 2 weeks has recovered all of that momentum. So I do think the market's forming a bit of a bottom here, and I do think there's going to be a lot more upside. This is kind of the area I'm looking for price to push into, which is kind of half of this move, but there's a nice confluence in that area. If I drop to the 4-hour chart, you can see prior resistance and support kind of meeting together. Actually, if I go to the daily chart, you might see a bit better. There we go. So I think that area of confluence there, kind of halfway with that bearish move, is naturally a healthy place for us to push into if this is, of course, going to be a bottom. So the plan is just finding where I can position myself long to hold on to that swing. Now I've mapped out 3 areas here for Aussie dollar. I've got this low here, which would be my preferred opportunity, which was the same level I was discussing coming into the week. If we could push, pull back into that zone, then buy. Of course, we didn't get that. So I think this level here looks the most unlikely to be tested. And we've got 2 levels here. One resistance just above where price is trading, which has been a solid resistance. You can see in the weekly chart, so many wicks into this area. So clearly a level which the market is struggling to break through. So I'm looking for price to either have a breaking retest above this level here, or respect that resistance level, pull back into some support below us around 0.632, find that higher low and continue. So this is basically my idea for Aussie dollar, breaking retest of that area, then the buy, or a retest of this area, then the buy. And of course, I'll keep an eye on that, but even if we were to get there, we probably won't get there by next week anyway. So that probably would be analysis for the for next week, the week after. So we can discuss that later if that is the case. But for now, 0.632, sorry, and 0.64 look like really nice places to position long. Again, I'll be looking for entries predominantly on the 4-hour chart, maybe hourly if things look good, but if things are a little bit messy, I'll just stay with the 4-hour chart. And yeah, look to see if I can find some entries to continue to swing this to the upside. Again, very bearish on USD as well. I do think a pullback is due. So hopefully that will give us the pullback for Aussie dollar, and we can speak about some longs. But that'll be the plan next week for Aodu USD. So up next, we've got New Zealand CAD. So it's been a very big recovery for this one. Huge sell-off followed by a very big recovery. A lot of the NZD and AUD pairs did this. We had that big kind of dramatic sell. AUD and NZD were very bearish, and then suddenly they became pretty bullish. And we had some really impressive recoveries here. And New Zealand CAD is one of them. You can see that illustrated very well in the monthly chart, just represented by a massive wick to the downside. It looks like support here has basically held. Now I know the monthly candle still has another week to go, pretty much a little bit over a week, so a lot can happen in that time. But so far, it looks like support is holding. And if we can stay true to that by the end of the month, well, then we can probably see a much bigger push to the upside in the next couple, next couple of months potentially. So that it could be the start of a very big up move for New Zealand CAD. But what I am seeing here is a very aggressive V-shaped pattern. So there's your impulsive sell and there's your impulsive buy back up. So now looking for the correction of that for a continuation to the upside, back into resistance there, 0.833. So yeah, that's the plan for New Zealand CAD. Right now looks like we're running out a bit of room, so hopefully we can see a bit of a pullback, come back and retest support. Then I'll be more than happy to long this one back to the high or even the high there on the daily chart. So yeah, very bullish for New Zealand CAD, just waiting for a retracement for this one. It's pretty much the same idea as the Aussie dollar trade, big impulse down, impulse up, looking for the continuation of that and looking to see if we can push it back into highs. So that's the plan next week for New Zealand CAD. Okay, so over to pound NZD. So I've been pretty bearish with this one. I still am. I do think there's a big move to be had with this one. We've been in a very lovely uptrend, but I do think price potentially could be putting a bit of a top here, the way the candlesticks are forming, the way momentum is forming as well. But I did say coming to the week, if I do get short, it's because price is pushing back into resistance around here for me to sell. Looking for a lower high at that area, kind of a bit like a head and shoulder pattern. There's your left, there's your head, and that will be your right shoulder. If we could test that area, then get a sell. So that was the plan for the week, but we didn't get that. Price was just mainly bearish this week. We pushed the downside, but support is still holding. And we have tapped into some nice areas down here as well, where we've had a bit of a bounce. So I do think for pound NZD, there is room to the upside for that recovery. I'm still looking for the sell, but of course, we're nowhere near that level. So then potentially might be some buys on the way up towards that level. And then once we're there, we can focus on some shorts and taking that head and shoulder pattern again. So for now, for pound NZD, if we push back into the lows here, if we stay corrective, because we've been corrective since here, market's been very, very slow, a lot of wicks, not a lot of momentum. So it does tell me that an up move is on the cards here for pound NZD. So another push down, we're likely to push back up again. Or if you wait for price to break above this level, this might give a nice buy opportunity above 2.24. It was prior resistance here on the left. Could be acting as support again if we do get back above it. But for the bigger sell, this is where I'm waiting for price to get to. And then we can start speaking about some shorts again around 2.27, where we've got resistance on our left here. That's where I'm looking to see if I can take a short. But at the moment, still pretty bullish for pound NZD, especially because of where we're positioned. Again, you can have a bullish bias or a bearish bias on the same currency pair and make good opportunities, and not make good opportunities, take good opportunities. But it depends where you're positioned and where you're going to enter and exit your positions. I might be expecting a bigger bearish move for pound NZD, but I'm not going to be looking to take advantage of that bias at these prices. This is bullish prices. They can provide some nice bullish ideas, but if I'm looking to sell, I need price to be back at some bearish levels, territories, confluences where I can take my shorts, which would be up there. So if we can get there again, great. We start looking for sells, but at the moment, if you push back into support, that looks like a nice buy opportunity for me. So keep an eye on 2.22 for a long, 2.27 for a short, and that's the plan next week for pound NZD. Okay, so over to CAD Gen. So I'm not a fan of the price action with CAD Gen. It's just kind of squeezing in this triangular pattern. We've got this descending trend line here connecting the highs. Price is doing a pretty good job at respecting it, bar this candle here, which did close above, but we closed straight back below the following candle. And we've got support below us here, which price has tested a few times and is respecting. So we're kind of just squeezing here. Eventually we're going to break out, whether it's going to be to the downside or to the upside. And we're going to have to wait and see. And of course, waiting for the breakout will give us the best opportunity. No point in terms of really trying to guess that, because we're going to have to wait for the breakout anyway. So might as well just wait for it to happen. And then we can plot some trades if we're looking to sell. And we do see a lovely break to the downside and basically just the continuation of this bearish trend. Well, then we can start speaking about some shorts on the retest of the low and some continuations. If we do break to the upside, then we're probably going to push back towards resistance. And that could be a nice target to either to buy towards or potentially sell from if we get there again. So yeah, CAD Gen, just not a big fan of the price action. It's very, very flat. You can see on the weekly chart, we're seeing a lot of wicks, not a lot of momentum as well. So I would stay away potentially. There might be some short-term buys if we're to come back and test support again. So if I can move this out the way, same with this one. If price does claw its way back to support, there might be a short-term buy there, but I don't see that lasting more than a day really, just to be on the safe side. I think the bigger move for CAD Yen is when we eventually decide to break out. Again, whether that's the upside to the downside, we're not too sure, but I do think that's where the momentum will lie and some nice opportunities, especially if you're looking at falling momentum, following a trend. That's kind of what we're waiting for. So again, if you can clear support to the downside, that will then become resistance and a healthy place to short. If you do break to the upside, you can either look to try and buy the breakout. Because of how choppy it is, I probably wouldn't do that. I'll wait to see if you can push back to resistance and potentially look to sell from there as well. I mean, CAD Yen is still pretty much in a bearish trend, so sells for me is still the best bet. But where we're positioned is just not a great place to be looking to short. So you need price to eventually break out of that. And hopefully we can speak about some shorts later on, whether on the retest of this level or if we do push back into the resistance at 105.5. But that remains the plan there for CAD Yen. Okay, so up next we've got pound USD. So I'm pretty bullish on pound. Again, bearish on USD. All these USD majors I'm kind of looking to buy against the dollar. So pound USD I'm very bullish on. I do think there's a good chance we're going to push back to 1.34, which is back at that kind of daily weekly swing high. We've already broken through resistance here at 1.31, and we just had a very strong weekly candle close above that. So I think it's only a matter of time before we do push back into resistance now. So the plan for pound USD is just looking for a bit of a pullback. We've seen such a big swing from this low here. In fact, we haven't seen a bearish candle since that move there. So the market's been very strong, and it's due a pullback. It's likely to have a pullback, and that will give us the opportunity to actually get into a trade. So the two levels I'm looking to buy from is 1.315, the retest of the high there, or if we have a slightly deeper pullback, I like the retest of this area here, where we kind of had a range which price was just manipulating all over the place, to the upside, to the downside, and now we're breaking to the upside again. So that would be also a nice place for a retest of as well. It just depends how big of a pullback we get and what type of price action we get at those levels, which will decide, what I do with those levels there. But I'm only looking to buy. I'm not interested in shorts whatsoever. Again, the market is extremely bullish right now, so just waiting for a pullback, waiting for price to come to myself. Then hopefully, if things look good, find some entries, and then hopefully take pound USD at least back to the high wherever we pull back from. Let's say if we top out here and pull back, of course, that high will then naturally be a good target to have. But if you're looking to stretch the trade a bit further, like I said, I do think there's a good chance we push back into that daily weekly swing high just above 1.34. So that very much there is the plan there for pound USD. I do think we can go a lot higher in the future as well, but we'll take it level by level, one step at a time for now. So yeah, that's the plan next week for pound USD. Okay, so up next we've got pound CAD. So pound CAD, I do have a bit of a bearish bias for this one. We had a really nice bounce off support this week. As you can see, prior resistance there. See it better on the weekly chart actually. We wicked into that, so we did say there's a good chance we do push to the upside the following week. And it did close pretty strongly bullish there. Really nice move to the upside, but we're coming back into areas of supply resistance where we do have a good chance of forming a low high and potentially coming back down again. Now, the market is still overall bullish, so shorts are still counter plays and they're still slightly more risky. But I do think we're at a top where price potentially could be forming a top and looking to roll over. We've taken up some major highs on the left here. This trend's been flying for a very long time since the low here. We haven't had much of a pullback in that time, so I do think pound CAD is desperate for a pullback, but of course it could happen now. It could happen the next swing. We could see another swing and then it happens, or we could see two more then it happens. So it's always difficult to try and call that top outright. I just know that we're coming into a point where the market's going to run out of steam soon and look to roll over. So I do like the opportunity for shorts, but again, being a bit more cautious with this trade. So let's say price does come back there, we form a bit of a double top. I wouldn't be so optimistic to target support straight away, because I know that potentially price might find support here or at this level here and then start to go against me, and maybe price does continue back to highs. So that's something I do have to be very careful with, because I know I'm getting going against the trade, and maybe the top isn't going to form just yet. So I do like this area for a short. I can see the lower highs the market is printing. We've got this trend line confluence running through the market as well. First test over there, nice drop. Second test over, oh, completely missed that. Second test over there, nice drop. And now I'm looking for the third test of the trend line alongside with this double top there and alongside with this supply zone there as well. So there's a lot of confluence here, 1.85, but again, not being too optimistic with targets. You can leave positions to run back to that sort of area, but I would strongly suggest looking to either trail a stop or partial out along the way, because there is that strong chance that the trend is going to continue. And your floating profits will probably disappear pretty quickly, so be prepared for that. But nonetheless, nice area to sell from, at least back into support in this area, 1.835, and if things look good, potentially 1.81 as well. But that'll be the plan next week for pound CAD. Okay, so next up we've got pound yen. So I'm still pretty bearish for pound yen overall. I do think price is still slowly working its way towards this low here. We've had a really big drop last year, July, August, and I think this is just a big correction for eventually a continuation of that move and price to take out that low. However, we're trapped at support right now. We've just extended this level here, and you can see price kind of dancing at that level. Now, we may eventually break through, but this is just not the place for me to be shorting, especially if I'm looking for a bigger swing trade. So I've marked out this area here. That would be my preference for price to pull back into that zone. Around 192.5, 193, and then from there I can look to find some entries and swing it back into support and hopefully leave positions to run back into the low there. So there's still a really big swing opportunity here for pound yen, but it would be nice for us to pull back. I do think in the meantime that as long as we respect support, there could be some nice buys for pound yen. We had a big wick through that level there. If I scoot back to the daily chart, big wick through that level there. So it looks like support is really holding. From a weekly standpoint, we're seeing a lot of wicks to the downside as well, momentum slowing down as well. So again, that buys into the idea of some potential bullish opportunities. So I think if price can push back down into support, that would be a nice place to put your stop loss underneath. That could end up being a nice place for a bounce. Now, again, I'm not so bullish on pound yen, so I'm not really interested by the opportunity, but there might be some short-term buys if you're looking for that kind of play on maybe an hourly chart or maybe even lower as well. There is some resistance just above us here that could make for a really healthy target for that buy opportunity back into 189.5 roughly. Hopefully we can see that happen and potentially price can go a lot further, because this is really where I want to see if I can get involved in a position to swing it back into support and hopefully a lot further as well. So that's really what I'm looking at for pound yen. Again, I'll speak a bit more about this opportunity probably in a week's time, because we're still very, very far away. Excuse me. We're still very far away, and it's probably going to take us at least a week to get even close to that level, let alone test it. So I'll probably speak a bit more about that opportunity later on, but for now, for next week anyway, I think the buyers are the best play here at 187.9. So that's the plan for pound yen going into next week. Okay, so on to gold. So gold just very, very bullish this week. Another big break to the upside. We had this lovely range and prices left that area in the dust. And it looks like we're forming some more support in this area here too. There's a brief doji on the left here. If I just move this out of the way, where price did pause slightly, then we had another big push. Looks like we're respecting that opportunity. So there could be some nice intraday opportunities to long gold straight away next week, because it looks to me that this support area or area demand, depending how you want to call it, looks to be holding pretty well. So and the way price is moving just looks like another pullback to me. So with gold's price action here, if we can remain above support here come next week, I do think there could be some nice buys early in the week and a push back to the high. If we do have that bigger pullback, then not to worry, there's a big zone below us here that we had a very strong bullish move from, which I would expect buyers to be looking to step back into the market at this area. Whether it gets back to the high or not, that's a different question. I think this would be a smart area to look to long from if gold does return to that area. So the support levels I'm expecting gold to hold are 33.12 and 32.40. Those are the areas where I think will be smart for some longs. And I think with gold, the smart thing to do is not necessarily have targets, but just trail a stop loss. You can of course bank profit at maybe some highs, but you don't know what gold has next. Do we have another one of these moves in the tank? Potentially, and that could be some really healthy profit if you do get into a nice position with gold here, and that's just the nature of the market at the moment. So very, very bullish. Keep an eye on both those levels, but yeah, I think there's a good chance we see new highs next week as well. Okay, so over to Bitcoin. So Bitcoin, we've had the big breakout of this trend line, which has been in play for a while. However, I probably shouldn't say big breakout because the breakout has been very minimal. We just about broke out. Now market's just moving sideways. So not really seeing the momentum we want to see. But again, if this is a breakout and price is still getting ready for the move to the upside, I've highlighted this level here at 92K as an area which I do think price is likely to be drawn towards. But I do want to see price break through resistance here at 85,500. I think that will be the next kind of sign or catalyst to get Bitcoin on its way, because we did have a nice breakout of that channel, which held since January, I think. Now we've got the break of the trend line, but momentum hasn't really come back into the market. So again, perhaps a break of this resistance could be the catalyst to get Bitcoin on its way, and we start to really tack higher. And 92K would be my area of interest. So buys on the breakout, buys on the retest after the breakout, depending how you want to tackle it, I think look like a nice opportunity. And targets around 92K look good as well. I'm not so not so confident that we're just going to push back to the all-time highs just yet. I think there's a big level, 92K, we've got to contend with first. But judging how correct we've been, the fact that we've kind of just, every time we push down, we've recovered ground very quickly. The fact that we've broken through the trend line, I do think we haven't really had a meaningful sell-off as well with Bitcoin as well. I do think points direction, points arrows to the upside here. So bullish on Bitcoin, but need to break that resistance first around 85,500 and then targets at 92K next week. Okay, so last but not least, we've got a bonus pair, which for this week is Euro NZD. So I'm pretty bullish with this one as of where price is situated. I do think as a whole, the market has got a lot of room to the downside, to be honest, for a bigger pullback. We've broken out of this kind of massive range. I do think we'll likely see a bit of a pullback towards that area at some point, but support is still holding. Look to our left here. We can see a lovely kind of consolidation here. That shot to the upside with a lot of momentum. We're coming back to retest that area. So I think naturally this is a bullish area and we're likely to see a bit of a bounce. Drop into the daily chart as well. You can see we're becoming a little bit more corrective. I'll focus my attention a bit more to this area where again, we had a brief pause, strong move to the upside. Now we're coming into that area. You can see prices slowing down a little bit as well. So naturally, I do think this is a nice place for a long. So again, if we can push the downside similar to pound and NZD, which we talked about earlier in the stream, I do think this could lead to a nice buy opportunity in this kind of descending channel formation. So if I kind of just line everything up, another push into the low, I do think this can develop into a nice buy. Now targets, I'm not being so optimistic about targeting the swing high again. I do think Euro NZD, like I said, is forming a top and potentially going to pull back soon. There is some structure which I've highlighted here. You can see some nice daily support. I've taken that across, which of course will act as resistance. I think that makes for a healthy target, especially if you can get an entry, something like this down at these areas. Probably get a nice 1 to 2 into that level, maybe a 1 to 3. If we're lucky. I think that's a lovely trade in itself. We're coming back into some nice bullish areas here, areas of demand where we did see a lot of momentum come from, and based on how price is moving, it looks like we're likely to see a bounce from this zone anyway. Then as we approach resistance, start to be a bit cautious, just in case we do keep up with these lower highs and form another one. Potentially price does push back to the highs. You can always leave positions to run. As I keep saying, that's always a healthy way to try and maximize your winners by leaving positions to run. But of course, being aware to levels where potentially sellers could jump into the market, and it will be a smart decision to secure some gains. And I would guess 1.93 would be a smart place to take some profits. So that is a nice trade idea there for next week for Euro NZD. And that, guys, does bring us to the end of the analysis. If you have found it useful, please be sure to drop a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And of course, hit the bell so you don't miss out on any streams or uploads in the future. Comment down below any pairs you're looking to trade next week. I am interested to find out. Make sure you do check out the Elevated Traders Discord channel, completely free to join. Link in the description to that. But guys, I appreciate you tuning in. have a great weekend, and I'll catch you all next week.